Imagine a world where the mightiest empires, built over decades or even centuries, can be shaken, exposed, or even toppled in a matter of days, not by invading armies or economic collapse, but by the power of a tweet, a viral video, or a trending hashtag. This is the new reality of the digital age, where social media has become both a weapon and a battlefield, capable of amplifying voices, spreading ideas, and holding the powerful to account in ways never before possible. The fall of empires by social media is not just a story of technology, but a story of people, of how ordinary individuals, armed with smartphones and internet connections, can challenge the status quo and rewrite the rules of power. To understand this phenomenon, we need to look at what an empire means in the modern world. Empires are not just nations or kingdoms ruled by monarchs, they are any structures of power and influence: governments, corporations, media conglomerates, even celebrities and cultural icons. For centuries, these empires maintained their dominance through control of information, resources, and the narrative. They shaped public opinion through newspapers, radio, television, and official statements. Dissent was often silenced, and alternative viewpoints struggled to find a platform. But the rise of social media has changed all that, creating a new landscape where information flows freely, hierarchies are flattened, and anyone can become a broadcaster. The seeds of this transformation were sown in the early 2000s as platforms like Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube began to connect people across borders and cultures. At first, social media was seen as a tool for sharing personal updates, funny videos, and photos of friends and family. But it quickly became clear that these platforms had the potential to do much more. They could mobilize communities, spread news faster than traditional media, and give a voice to those who had long been ignored. The power of social media lay not just in its reach, but in its speed and interactivity. A single post could go viral in minutes, reaching millions and sparking conversations that traditional gatekeepers could not control. One of the earliest and most dramatic examples of social media's power to challenge empires came during the Arab Spring of 2010-2011. In countries like Tunisia, Egypt, and Libya, decades-old regimes were brought to their knees as protesters used Facebook and Twitter to organize demonstrations, share information, and broadcast images of government crackdowns to the world. The hashtag Jan25 became a rallying cry in Egypt as activists coordinated protests in Tahrir Square and bypassed state-controlled media. Videos of police brutality and mass gatherings spread like wildfire, inspiring others to join the movement and drawing international attention. The fall of Hosni Mubarak in Egypt, long considered unthinkable, became a reality in just 18 days, an empire undone by the collective power of its people, amplified by social media. But the impact of social media is not limited to political revolutions. Corporate empires, too, have found themselves vulnerable in the age of digital transparency. Scandals that might once have been buried by PR teams or ignored by mainstream media can now explode online, fueled by whistleblowers, leaked documents, and viral outrage. The hashtag #MeToo movement, for example, began with a single tweet and quickly grew into a global reckoning, exposing sexual harassment and abuse in industries from Hollywood to Silicon Valley. Powerful figures who had long operated with impunity were suddenly held to account, as survivors shared their stories and demanded change. The fall of media mogul Harvey Weinstein and the subsequent wave of resignations and reforms showed that even the most entrenched empires could be brought down by the collective voice of the people. Social media has also transformed the way we think about celebrity and influence. In the past, stars and public figures relied on carefully managed images and controlled access to maintain their status. Today, a single misstep, a tone-deaf tweet, an offensive video, or a leaked conversation can spark a backlash that spreads across platforms and continents. Cancel culture, for better or worse, has become a force to be reckoned with, as fans and critics alike use social media to demand accountability and, in some cases, to call for the downfall of those who abuse their power. The rise and fall of influencers, YouTubers, and even politicians can now hinge on the court of public opinion, rendered in real time through likes, shares, and retweets. Yet the story of empires falling by social media is not just one of destruction, it is also a story of creation and renewal. New voices, movements, and communities have emerged from the ashes of the old, using social media to build alternative structures of power and influence. Grassroots campaigns, crowdfunding efforts, and digital activism have given rise to new forms of leadership and organization, challenging the traditional hierarchies and offering hope for a more inclusive and participatory future. The same tools that can bring down empires can also be used to build new ones that are more responsive, transparent, and accountable to the people they serve. As we move deeper into the digital age, the question is not whether social media will continue to shape the rise and fall of empires, but how we will navigate this new landscape. The power of social media is immense, but it is also unpredictable and at times dangerous. Misinformation, manipulation, and online harassment are real threats, and the same platforms that empower can also be used to oppress. The challenge for the future is to harness the positive potential of social media while guarding against its dark side, a task that will require vigilance, innovation, and a renewed commitment to the values of truth, justice, and community.
The story of social media's power to topple empires is not just about the platforms themselves, but about the people who use them. Every revolution, every scandal, every viral moment begins with individuals, sometimes ordinary, sometimes extraordinary, who decide to speak out, share their truth, or challenge the status quo. In the digital age, the barriers to entry have never been lower. Anyone with a smartphone and an internet connection can become a journalist, an activist, or a whistleblower. The gatekeepers of the past, editors, producers, government censors, have lost much of their power, replaced by algorithms and the unpredictable currents of online attention. This democratization of information has had profound consequences for the world's most powerful institutions. Take, for example, the case of WikiLeaks and the release of classified documents in the early 2010s. What began as a small website dedicated to transparency quickly became a global phenomenon, as millions of secret files from governments and corporations were published online for all to see. The revelation sparked outrage, protests, and policy changes, exposing corruption, war crimes, and abuses of power that might otherwise have remained hidden. The traditional empires of secrecy and control were suddenly vulnerable to the relentless scrutiny of the digital public. Social media has also played a crucial role in exposing and challenging systemic injustice. The Black Lives Matter movement, for instance, gained momentum through the viral spread of videos documenting police violence against Black Americans. Hashtags like hashtag Black Lives Matter and hashtag Say Her Name became rallying points for activists, drawing attention to cases that might have been ignored or misrepresented by mainstream media. The ability to live stream protests, share eyewitness accounts, and organize mass demonstrations in real time gave the movement a power and visibility that would have been unthinkable just a decade earlier. The fall of the old empire of secrecy and control was replaced by a new era of accountability and activism. But the impact of social media is not always so clear-cut. The same tools that empower can also be used to manipulate, deceive, and divide. Disinformation campaigns, coordinated by state and non-state actors alike, have become a new weapon in the struggle for power. Fake news, deepfakes, and bot armies can sway elections, incite violence, and undermine trust in institutions. The fall of empires in the digital age is often accompanied by chaos and confusion, as truth becomes harder to discern and the line between fact and fiction blurs. Consider the case of the 2016 U.S. presidential election, where social media platforms became battlegrounds for influence operations by foreign governments and domestic actors. False stories and conspiracy theories spread rapidly, reaching millions of voters and shaping public opinion in ways that traditional media could not match. The old empire of journalistic authority was challenged by a new decentralized network of information, one that was both more open and more vulnerable to exploitation. The aftermath of the election saw a reckoning for social media companies as they grappled with their role in the spread of misinformation and the erosion of democratic norms. The fall of business empires has also been accelerated by the relentless scrutiny of social media. Companies that once controlled their public image through advertising and public relations now find themselves at the mercy of online reviews, viral complaints, and coordinated boycotts. A single customer's bad experience, shared on Twitter or TikTok, can spark a firestorm of negative publicity, forcing companies to respond quickly or risk losing the trust of their audience. The rise and fall of brands in the digital age is often determined not by boardroom decisions, but by the unpredictable dynamics of online communities. One striking example is the downfall of United Airlines' reputation after a video of a passenger being forcibly removed from a flight went viral in 2017. The footage, shared millions of times across platforms, sparked outrage and led to widespread calls for boycotts and policy changes. The company's initial response, defensive and tone-deaf, only fueled the backlash, demonstrating how quickly public sentiment can turn against even the most established brands. In the past, such incidents might have been quietly settled or ignored. In the age of social media, they become global events with real consequences. Social media has also changed the way political power is exercised and challenged. Leaders who once relied on state-controlled media to shape their image now find themselves in direct conversation with their constituents and their critics. Some have embraced the new reality, using Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram to bypass traditional channels and speak directly to the public. Others have struggled to adapt, finding themselves outmaneuvered by online movements and digital-savvy opponents. The fall of political empires in the digital age is often a story of adaptation or the lack thereof. Yet the power of social media is not absolute. Governments and corporations have learned to fight back, using the same tools to monitor, influence, and sometimes suppress dissent. Surveillance technologies, data analytics, and targeted advertising have become weapons in the struggle for control. In some countries, internet shutdowns, censorship, and propaganda campaigns are used to maintain the old order and stifle opposition. The battle between empires and the digital public is ongoing, with each side learning and evolving in response to the other. At its core, the fall of empires by social media is a story of transformation, a shift from centralized, top-down control to a more fluid, networked, and participatory model of power. It is a story of opportunity and risk, of liberation and manipulation, of hope and fear. The digital age has given rise to new forms of community, identity, and resistance, but it has also exposed new vulnerabilities and dangers. As we navigate this complex landscape, the challenge is to harness the power of social media for good, while remaining vigilant against its potential.
The influence of social media on the rise and fall of empires is not limited to the political and corporate worlds. Cultural empires, those built on celebrity, entertainment, and public opinion, have also been dramatically reshaped by the digital revolution. In the past, celebrities and cultural icons were protected by layers of publicists, managers, and carefully curated media appearances. Their images were constructed and maintained by powerful studios, record labels, and media conglomerates. But social media has torn down these walls, giving fans and critics unprecedented access to the lives and actions of the famous. The phenomenon of cancel culture is perhaps the most visible example of how social media can bring down cultural empires. When a celebrity, influencer, or public figure is accused of wrongdoing, whether it's offensive comments, unethical behavior, or criminal acts, the response can be swift and overwhelming. Hashtags trend, old posts are unearthed, and calls for accountability echo across platforms. Sometimes the backlash is justified, shining a light on genuine abuses of power. Other times, it can be disproportionate, driven by outrage rather than evidence, and leaving little room for redemption or nuance. Consider the case of Kevin Spacey, once one of Hollywood's most respected actors. When allegations of sexual misconduct surfaced, the response on social media was immediate and intense. Within days, Spacey was dropped from projects, his scenes reshot, and his career effectively ended. The traditional gatekeepers of the entertainment industry responded not out of principle, but because the court of public opinion, amplified by social media, demanded it. The same pattern has played out for countless others, from YouTubers to musicians to business leaders. The message is clear. In the age of social media, no one is untouchable. But the fall of empires by social media is not always about scandal. Sometimes it's about changing tastes, shifting values, or the rise of new voices. Social media has democratized fame, allowing anyone with talent, charisma, or a unique perspective to build an audience. Platforms like TikTok, Instagram, and YouTube have created a new generation of influencers who command more attention than many traditional celebrities. These digital stars are often more relatable, more accessible, and more responsive to their fans. They rise quickly, but they can also fall just as fast, as the fickle tides of online attention shift from one trend to the next. The music industry offers a vivid illustration of this dynamic. In the past, record labels controlled who got heard, what songs became hits, and which artists rose to the top. Today, a song can go viral on TikTok or YouTube, catapulting an unknown artist to global fame overnight. But the same forces that create stars can also destroy them. A poorly received tweet, a controversial video, or a backlash from fans can end a career in days. The power of the audience has never been greater, but it is also unpredictable and, at times, unforgiving. Social media has also changed the way cultural movements spread and evolve. In the past, new ideas and trends often took years to gain traction, moving slowly from subcultures to the mainstream. Today, a meme, a dance challenge, or a viral video can sweep the globe in hours. Movements like #BlackGirlMagic, #LoveWins, and #FridaysForFuture have used social media to build communities, raise awareness, and drive real-world change. The fall of old cultural empires has made way for new forms of expression, identity, and activism, ones that are more diverse, inclusive, and dynamic. Yet this new landscape is not without its challenges. The speed and scale of social media can amplify misinformation, fuel polarization, and create echo chambers where only certain views are heard. The same platforms that empower marginalized voices can also be used to harass, bully, and silence. The fall of empires in the digital age is often accompanied by a sense of instability, as old certainties are swept away and new norms are still being negotiated. The world of sports offers another window into the power of social media to shape empires. Athletes, once seen as distant heroes, now interact directly with fans, share their personal lives, and use their platforms to speak out on social and political issues. This direct connection has made athletes more influential than ever, but it has also made them more vulnerable. A single misstep, on or off the field, can lead to a storm of criticism, lost endorsements, and damaged reputations. Teams and leagues, too, must navigate the unpredictable waters of online opinion, responding to controversies and crises in real time. The fall of empires by social media is in many ways a story of accountability. The powerful can no longer hide behind walls of privilege or control the narrative through traditional means. The public has a voice, and that voice can be loud, persistent, and impossible to ignore. But accountability is not the same as justice, and the rush to judgment that often characterizes online discourse can lead to unintended consequences. Reputations can be destroyed on the basis of rumors or misunderstandings, and the pressure to respond quickly can leave little room for due process or reflection. As we look to the future, the question is not whether social media will continue to shape the rise and fall of cultural empires, but how we can ensure that this power is used responsibly. The challenge is to balance the need for accountability with the values of fairness, empathy, and forgiveness. The digital age has given us new tools for connection and change, but it has also created new risks and responsibilities. The fall of empires by social media is a reminder that power, in all its forms, is ultimately accountable to the people, and that the people in turn must use their power wisely.
As the digital age matures, the relationship between social media and the fall of empires grows ever more intricate.
The platforms that once promised to democratize information and empower the voiceless have themselves become powerful empires, shaping the flow of news, culture, and even politics. Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, Instagram, and TikTok are no longer just tools. They are global institutions with billions of users, vast economic influence, and the ability to set the agenda for public discourse. Their algorithms decide what stories rise and fall, what trends go viral, and which voices are amplified or silenced. In a sense, the empire has struck back, as the gatekeepers of the past are replaced by new digital overlords. This new reality raises profound questions about who controls the narrative in the digital age. Social media companies, once celebrated for their role in toppling dictators and exposing corruption, now face scrutiny for their own power and influence. Accusations of censorship, bias, and manipulation have become commonplace as users and governments alike question the motives and methods of these platforms. The fall of empires by social media is no longer just about governments or celebrities. It is about the platforms themselves and the ways in which they wield their immense power. The 2021 storming of the U.S. Capitol is a stark example of how social media can both empower and endanger. In the weeks leading up to the event, platforms like Twitter, Facebook, and Parler were used to organize, spread misinformation, and incite violence. The aftermath saw a reckoning for the tech giants as they moved to ban accounts, remove content, and implement new policies. Critics argued that the platforms had acted too late, while others accused them of overreach and censorship. The incident highlighted the double-edged nature of social media, a tool for mobilization and accountability, but also a vector for chaos and division. Governments around the world have responded to the growing power of social media empires in different ways. Some have sought to regulate or even control the platforms, passing laws that require content moderation, data localization, or the removal of harmful material. Others have gone further, shutting down the internet during protests or blocking access to certain sites. The battle between digital empires and state power is ongoing, with each side seeking to assert control over the flow of information. In some cases, the platforms have become battlegrounds for geopolitical conflict, as rival states use them to wage information wars, spread propaganda, and influence public opinion abroad. The rise of social media empires has also raised concerns about privacy, surveillance, and the commodification of personal data. Every click, like, and share is tracked, analyzed, and monetized, creating detailed profiles that can be used to target ads, shape behavior, and even predict future actions. The old empires of government surveillance have been joined by new empires of corporate surveillance, raising questions about autonomy, consent, and the boundaries of personal freedom. The fall of empires by social media is thus not just a story of public power, but of private influence, of how our lives are shaped by forces we cannot always see or control. Yet even as social media platforms grow in power, they remain vulnerable to the same forces that brought down the empires before them. Public trust is fragile, and scandals can erupt with little warning. The hashtag Delete Facebook movement, sparked by revelations of data misuse and privacy violations, showed how quickly users can turn against the platform. The rise of alternative networks, encrypted messaging apps, and decentralized technologies reflects a growing desire for autonomy and control. The digital public, once content to follow, is now demanding a say in how the platforms are run and how their data is used. The fall of empires by social media may not look like the dramatic revolutions of the past, but it is no less significant. It is a process of erosion. As users migrate to new platforms, regulators impose new rules, and public opinion shifts. The platforms that once seemed invincible can find themselves on the defensive, struggling to adapt to changing expectations and new competitors. The story of MySpace, once the dominant social network, is a cautionary tale. In the digital age, empires can rise and fall with astonishing speed. At the same time, the global reach of social media has created new opportunities for solidarity and collective action. Movements like hashtag Fridays for Future, hashtag EndSARS, and hashtag Free Hong Kong have used digital platforms to connect activists across borders, share strategies, and coordinate protests. The fall of empires by social media is not just about destruction, but about the creation of new forms of power, networks that are more flexible, resilient, and responsive to the needs of their members.
The digital age has made it possible for people to organize at scale, to challenge authority, and to build communities that transcend geography and tradition. But with these opportunities come new risks. The same tools that enable collective action can also be used to spread hate, misinformation, and division. Online harassment, doxing, and coordinated attacks have become all too common, targeting individuals and groups that challenge the status quo. The fall of empires by social media is thus not just a story of liberation, but also of vulnerability, of empowerment and exposure. The challenge for the future is to find ways to protect the vulnerable, promote healthy discourse, and ensure that the digital public sphere remains open, inclusive, and accountable. As we look ahead, it is clear that the relationship between social media and the fall of empires will continue to evolve. The platforms that dominate today may be replaced by new technologies tomorrow. The battles for control, influence, and accountability will shape the future of politics, culture, and society. The digital age has given us unprecedented power to shape our world, but it has also made us more aware of the fragility of the empires we build. In the end, the fall of empires by social media is a reminder that power is never absolute and that the forces of change are always at work, sometimes quietly, sometimes with a tweet that echoes around the world.
In the end, the story of empires rising and falling by the force of social media is a story about us, about humanity's endless quest for connection, meaning, and influence. The digital age has not only changed the tools we use to communicate, but it has also transformed the very nature of power itself. Where once empires were built on armies, wealth, and territory, today's empires are constructed from networks, narratives, and the ability to capture attention. The smartphone in your pocket is more than a device. It is a gateway to a world where every voice can matter, every story can spread, and every empire, no matter how mighty, can be challenged. The lessons of the past decade are clear. Social media is a double-edged sword. It can empower the oppressed, expose corruption, and give rise to movements that change the world. But it can also be used to manipulate, deceive, and destroy. The same platforms that brought down dictators and exposed injustice have also been used to spread hate, incite violence, and undermine trust in institutions. The fall of empires by social media is not a simple tale of good triumphing over evil, but a complex dance of creation and destruction, hope and fear, progress and backlash. One of the most important lessons is the need for digital literacy. In a world where information moves at the speed of light, the ability to think critically, verify sources, and understand the mechanics of online influence is more important than ever. The fall of empires often begins with a single post, a viral video, or a trending hashtag, but the consequences can be far-reaching and unpredictable. As citizens of the digital world, we have a responsibility to use our voices wisely, to question what we see, and to hold both ourselves and others accountable for the information we share. Another lesson is the importance of resilience and adaptability. The empires that have survived the digital revolution are those that have learned to listen, to engage, and to evolve. Governments, businesses, and cultural icons who treat social media as a one-way broadcast, ignoring the voices of their audiences, are often the first to fall. Those who embrace transparency, dialogue, and genuine connection are more likely to thrive. The digital age rewards authenticity and punishes arrogance. It elevates those who are willing to learn and change, and it exposes those who cling to outdated models of power. The future of empires in the age of social media will be shaped by the choices we make today. Will we use these platforms to build bridges or walls, to empower or to oppress, to seek truth or to spread lies? The answers will depend not just on the technology itself, but on the values and intentions of the people who use it. Social media is a reflection of society, its hopes, its fears, its divisions, and its dreams. The fall of empires is not inevitable. It is the result of countless decisions, large and small, made by individuals and communities every day.
As new technologies emerge, artificial intelligence, virtual reality, blockchain, the landscape of power will continue to shift. The next generation of empires may look very different from those of today, but the fundamental dynamics will remain the same. Those who control the flow of information, who can shape narratives and mobilize communities, will wield immense influence. But they will also be subject to the same forces of scrutiny, accountability, and change that have brought down so many before them. The digital world is fluid, unpredictable, and always in motion. Perhaps the greatest challenge of all is to find balance. The fall of empires by social media has shown us the dangers of unchecked power, but it has also revealed the risks of mob justice, misinformation, and polarization. The task before us is to create systems, both technological and social, that promote healthy discourse, protect the vulnerable, and encourage constructive engagement. This will require cooperation between platforms, governments, civil society, and users themselves. It will require new forms of regulation, new norms of behavior, and a renewed commitment to the principles of democracy, fairness, and respect. The story is still being written. Every day, new empires rise and fall in the digital arena. A single tweet can spark a movement. A viral video can change the course of an election. A hashtag can unite people across continents. The power of social media is immense, but it is also fragile. It depends on trust, on participation, and on the willingness of people to use it for good. The fall of empires is a reminder that no power is permanent, and that the future belongs to those who are willing to adapt, to listen, and to lead with integrity. In the end, the fall of empires by social media is not just a story about technology or politics or business. It is a story about people, about our capacity for creativity, for connection, for courage, and for change. It is a story about the ways in which we shape the world and the ways in which the world shapes us in return. The digital age has given us new tools, new challenges, and new opportunities. It is up to us to decide how we will use them and what kind of empires we will build or bring down in the years to come. As we look to the horizon, one thing is certain. The power of social media to shape the fate of empires is here to stay. The question is not whether empires will rise and fall, but how we will respond when they do. Will we be passive observers or active participants? Will we use our voices to tear down or to build up? The answers will define not just the future of social media, but the future of society itself. In this new world, every post, every share, every connection matters. The fall of empires is no longer the stuff of history books. It is happening now, in real time, and we're all part of it.